So in this video, we're going to discuss some forensics, and we are going to discuss some other exciting, a little less emotionally charged components of this case. I know that I took kind of an aggressive tone with reading of the statements, and I will say that I have a personal associate who is an FBI investigator. He's an FBI agent who's a fantastic man, but I jokingly tell him every time I have communication with him that I understand why people make false confessions. So I was very much playing the role of Jack Davidson, how I feel every time I have to talk to my friend who's an FBI agent, in that anything could tip me to false confession. So, in defense of the Virginia State Police, the lighter that was in question had the initials JHG on it. And just so you don't think that Jonathan Harvey Gilbert was the only man with those initials that they interrogated, they also spoke to John Henry Gross, who was unemployed at the time. He stated he was not a frequent visitor to the Richlands area. If he goes to the area, it's only for purchasing items of necessity. He has never used a taxi for transport. He denied that he had a Zippo lighter, and he said he did not know anything about the murder. Now, I would like to say that when we discuss forensics evidence, I do want you to remember that. The list of evidence as of April 15th is the boombox that was in question, whether or not Jonathan had purchased it or it was stolen, the lighter, Jonathan's blue button-up shirt with stripes, his black jeans, register tapes from the Family Dollar showing that someone bought shoes, metal tags engraved with the initials JHG, which are never referenced anywhere other than this piece of paper, by the way. Another receipt from the Family Dollar store, a Copperhead air pistol, a register tape from the Magic Mart, a compact disc, a knife, packages of fibers, hair scrapings, and swabs, compact disc cases, CD price tags, a photo on the inside of the vehicle, and a box of BBs. Okay? So at this point, that is the physical evidence they're in possession of. So remember, we're going to get back to that. Now, on April 11th, Clarence Jordan, who made the missing persons report on the 7th at noon, admitted that he took somebody to a house, and that statement was entered because they thought it might pertain to Jonathan's alibis, who were two young men named James and Alvin Casey. James and Alvin Casey were alibis. They made very affirmative statements accounting for Jonathan's actions. They had a few strange things they threw in there to be helpers, but they were mostly, pretty good. So then we have statements with Jonathan's family. These really aren't pertinent. Again, most of these statements offer really very little insight into anything because people either say Jonathan was good, Jonathan was bad, Jonathan told the truth, or Jonathan lied. None of them actually suss out what happens. It's more like a bunch of people are excited to be part of this investigation. I say that because that becomes a theme with some evidence a little bit later on. So there is a man named Michael David Mitchell, and he was visiting Jonathan's aunt, Kathy Gilbert, who is his mother. And Mr. Michael David Mitchell said that he saw Jonathan on April 4th, and Jonathan did not change his clothes at the time he came to the house. He just showed up, did his thing, and moved it along. So that was a thing. But now let's talk about what I have been dying to talk about. So we are going to start in the direction of the body. So canines had been called to the scene to find the body because, as I had said, the detective said, let's get some helicopters in here to locate this guy, and let's get the Virginia State Police in here to help us investigate. And we know that everybody was tied up in court or wherever. So whatever. So the area of the crime scene had been previously secured by the Richlands Police Department. The crime scene examination began with an examination of the victim's abandoned vehicle. Examination of the exterior of the vehicle revealed no obvious marks or damage. The exterior of the vehicle was dusted for prints. Several prints were located on the exterior of the vehicle, beginning at the trunk lid. There was a total of 24 latent prints from the exterior of the vehicle. A latent print was located inside the right front door, and there was a print at the armrest. The exterior of the vehicle was photographed, and the location of the latent prints was placed on the diagram. A silver-colored Zippo lighter with GHG on one side was located near the abandoned vehicle, about 8 feet from the left rear of the vehicle, and it was laying in the high grass. Not really near the victim's body, but it's all in the same place, right? There was also a wadded up small plastic bag located inside the first cross tie that was placed on the victim's body. The plywood and the 3 cross ties covering his body, remember these are those 200-pound ties, were removed, showing the victim lying on his right side. The victim was clothed in dark-colored pants, black shoes and socks, a light-colored jacket with a blue jacket liner. He was wearing a long-sleeve white shirt and a white t-shirt. Okay? Went to the medical examiner. We know that. The victim was identified by a relative at the crime scene. Tazewell County Deputy Sheriff Ed Burris, the victim's nephew. Please remember that. I know I just said that with a great amount of emphasis for a reason. Remember it. Put it in your brain. Write it on a paper. Ed Burris, the nephew, is investigating. So A, should have been gone, and B, you'll see where I'm going. The interior of the vehicle was examined. They found a brown trifold wallet that was open. Driver's license was inside. The glove box was open with papers inside, including a newspaper. A braided scatter rug was laying on the driver's seat underneath the steering wheel. There was no obvious staining or marks inside the vehicle. No keys belonging to the vehicle were recovered. No weapons were found at the crime scene. No weapons were found at the crime scene. The victim's body was removed. As previously mentioned, all items were photographed and labeled. As previously stated by me, the victim was identified by a relative, Tazewell County Deputy Sheriff Ed Burris. Ed Burris. Why do I keep saying Ed Burris? Oh dear. If only I could not explain it. But then where would the fun in that be, right? So if I'm going to prove wrongful conviction, I have to prove 100% innocence. Of the total of 37 fingerprints that were lifted, the billfold was examined, the knife was fingerprinted, and fingerprints were taken from Jonathan Gilbert and Ed Burris, the sheriff deputy, the nephew, right? So remember, Jonathan is 18. You've just heard interviews with him. Very nice kid. IQ tests prove he's got a normal IQ, but he is a high school dropout. Very sweet man, but at this point in his life, not really. Smooth and sophisticated, kind of naive. Oh, why do I say that? Latent palm print present was the palm print of Deputy Sheriff Ed Burris. The latent fingerprints and palm prints identified were not related to Jonathan Harvey Gilbert. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, were not. So, the supposed perpetrator, the supposed murderer, left less evidence than the investigating sheriff. This 18-year-old kid seems to be a really good criminal. Because there's more to come to support that. The fingerprints for Mr. Basham were never submitted. An APHIS search was conducted, but no identification was found. Or, I don't know if it's APHIS. I don't know if it was a state database. It simply says an automated fingerprint search was conducted on the unidentified prints, but no identification was found. That was as of July 10th, 1997. Okay. So, again, I don't know if I can say it enough. The relative who should not have been investigating and contaminating the scene, the defendant, no evidence. So, we're going to take a moment to reflect on the evidence that the district attorney now has.